Welcome friends, welcome to our channel Scholars. Today we'll discuss about values and data type for class 9.
Values and data type, part 3. So first of all, we are going to talk about the variable. In the previous classes, we have already heard about this word variable. Now, in this class, we will discuss in very great details. So, variable is a reserved memory area where we want to store some kind of value. So the variable space is dictated by the data type which is being assigned to the variable. The data type tells that what kind of data that can be put inside a variable, because a variable is a elastic space where you can insert any kind of data, but the data has to be some kind of standardized information that is compatible with Java compiler. Now there are certain kind of restrictions we have to see that before assigning any variable. The first thing is that any kind of identifier name such as reserved keywords cannot be used as variable names. So variable has a syntax of first of all data type, then you have to set a variable name, then assignment operator, which is quite optional because sometimes there are two types of initialization. We will talk about that later, that dynamic and static. So depending upon what kind of initialization we are using, for that purpose we will use the assignment operator. The assignment operator in Java is simply a equal sign. For example, you can say that suppose int a equals to 5. So int a equals to 5, a is the variable name, 5 is the value, and int is a data type. So 5 is a valid integer type data which has been stored inside the variable a. So how does it store? How does it get stored? We have to remember that how our data is being stored inside a space, inside a RAM. So the RAM is sometimes is commonly called in computer science as memory. So the RAM has a sequence of values starting from 0 till how much is a RAM space. Suppose if you have 2 gigabytes of RAM, so it is 2048 to the power of 2. So that kind of amount of memory locations are present from 0 to 2048. You can say that from 0 to 2048. So the data can be inserted at any kind of location. Suppose a equals to 5, so a is the variable name, 5 is the data, and 110 is the memory location. So the memory location can be added randomly depending upon how much, what kind of applications are used by the Java and other softwares in the operating system. Now data types. So data types are defined as the set of possible values a variable can hold. So data types are basically divided into two parts, primitive and non-primitive. And primitive has been again subdivided into two parts, Boolean and numeric. So Boolean has true and false, which is simplest data type available. And then under the numeric, there are two broad types, character and integral. So under character is char for specifying alphabets, digits, then other symbols, how to represent in computer. And the integral has two parts, integer and floating point. So the integer is being again divided into four parts, byte, short, int, long. This has been being set up in the ascending order, that how much the data can be stored. And then the floating point, float and double. And the final part is the non-primitive. So non-primitive is string, array, class, and collections. Class and collection is commonly known as the complex data type, which we will discuss in the later classes. But for now, we will just focus, or in this class, we'll focus on string. So string is you can say a combinations of characters. And since it's a combination of characters, it's quite difficult to understand by any kind of compiler. For that purpose, it is being put it down inside the string. Now, what are the primitive data types? So primitive data types are also known as the fundamental data types, which has been predefined in the Java compiler as predefined data type. The primitive data type is available in any kind of language available in our computer world. So in Java, there are four basic primitive types: integer, floating point, character, and Boolean. So integer are those values which are just integer numbers with no fractional values, like -1, -200. So for minus values, we call them as signed and those which is just the positive values are called unsigned. And the floating numbers are the real numbers which has the point values minus 9.5, 3.14, this kind of values. And character is the set of values which represent from 0 to 65,535 range. So these has no negative values since it only represents Unicode and ASCII code, which is being represented for presenting digits like digits, alphabets, and symbols. And Boolean is the final data type, which is the simplest one to represent 0 and 1, which we will be commonly seeing in relational data types, which are operators. So integers are considered to be as the first thing anybody learns in Java. So the integer is the non-decimal point values, and integers has 4 parts: byte, short, int, long, which has been segregated and divided into ascending orders. So byte has a bit size of 8, short has a bit size of 16, int has a bit size of 32, and long has a bit size of 64. We need to remember that 1 byte equals to 8 bit. So in terms of byte, so the byte data type has 1 byte, short has 16 by 8, so 2 bytes. Int has 32 bits, so in terms of bytes it is 4 bytes, and long has 64 bits, so 1 byte is 8 bits, so we can say that 64 by 8 is 8 bytes. Now usage of byte is that as you are seeing in the screen, that byte B, usage of short S, usage of int is int I, and usage of long is long L. Now the floating point are known as real numbers. There are 2 types of floating points in Java: float and double. Float has a byte width of 4, so it has a bit width of 4 into 8, that is 32 bit width, and double has a byte width of 8, so in terms of bits it is 64 bit width. So float data type supports single precision value, and double data type supports double precision value. Now, so we can say that float has a 32 bit width and double has 64 bit width. By default, we need to remember that every Java data where we are inserting that any point values, Java by default considers it to be as double. So to make it as look like as float or double, to differentiate it, we need to add a sign, that is F and D. So F is float and D is double, to just segregate it. So float F equals to 3.14. If you just enter that float F equals 3.14, you will face an error. So to prevent that error, we are going to provide 3.14 followed by F, which is optional, but for specifying a float value, because Java obviously considers and converts into double, so we need to segregate it and specify that, and tell the Java compiler is specifically a floating point value. And if it is and adding the D value in the D part in the value of double is quite optional. You can do or not do also, but it's quite good to show that it is double. Then character has 16 bit width. So if you do 2 to the power of 16, you will get 65,536 approximately. So the range of character is 0 to 65,535, including 0 is 65,536, out of which 0 to 127 is ASCII character set. ASCII stands for American Standard Code for International Information. American Standard Code for Information Interchange. And from the table A has a value of 97. So you can see from the chart that if you suppose we store a value of 69 in char 1 and we increment by 2, so what are you getting? Looking from the chart, you will see that 7169 is E. Now if you add 2 places, it is 71. 71 is a value of representation value of G. So this is how we represent characters in Java. Then comes Boolean. Boolean is the simplest data type present in Java. It is used for logical operations. It has 2 values, true and false. Sometimes in other languages it is presented by 1s and 0s. Usage of Boolean is B1, B2. So B1 has a value of true and false. Remember that true and false, these two, specifically how they are written, they are known as the keywords. So we cannot use this true and false value in terms of any kind of variable name. This is the end of this part of the video series. For the next upcoming parts on the video series, subscribe to our channel, and if you have any kind of queries, write down in the comment box.